All right, we're gonna go ahead and get started, and I don't think that this is gonna take the whole half hour, but we'll go through it, and then we'll post the recording up on YouTube, and I'll send out the link. So if there are things you want to go back and look at, definitely do that. This is part of the new Taste of Technology series that we'll be doing, and they won't all be webinars. Some of them will just be recorded videos we do. Others will be just trainings that we send out. So we've got a lot of different ways that we'll be doing this. But we decided to start with a webinar, and we thought that this was a perfect one after the questions we got a week and a half ago regarding Windows updates and how they work and stuff like that. So I'm hoping everybody can see this PowerPoint here, and it's not a real long PowerPoint. I wouldn't call this death by PowerPoint, but it just goes over some things to keep in mind. The most important probably is our Windows updates. We push those out monthly, and these consist of important and critical updates, things that your computer really needs or has to have. We turn those updates off in times where we don't have a lot of people here. So summer months, updates are turned off. Then we've also been asked to turn them off during NISA testing windows. So most of March they're off, April they're off, and so we really get behind during those times. And then when we go to catch up, what happens is your computer wants to reboot multiple times. And we get that that can definitely be frustrating, that your computer wants to reboot right in the middle of doing something, right in the middle of teaching, right in the middle of a meeting or whatever you're doing. So I want to give you some tips here on how to avoid those inconvenient times of rebooting. We did start pushing updates out. We're about 4 months behind right now. We got caught up a couple weeks ago, and now we're trying to get caught up a little bit more this week and next week even before the NISA window opens. When we start pushing those out, you'll get an email, or your buildings will get an email from Stephanie Morrow, and Stephanie will talk about pushing out updates, and then she'll give like a close to the window. When that window closes, you're no longer allowed to postpone the updates. It's going to force a reboot no matter what you do at that point. So it's important to kind of be proactive during that window and make sure that the reboot happens. And when I say postpone, this is something that you'll see. So something will pop up in your bottom right-hand corner that'll look a little bit like this, and it'll ask you if you want to restart now or postpone. During the window, that postpone button is there. Outside of that window, or as soon as that window closes. So this week, for instance, the window closes at 11 p.m. Friday. So when you come back Monday, if you haven't done the reboot, what's going to happen is this box will pop up, but the only option you're going to get is to restart now. You're not going to get an option to postpone. But during this window, feel free to postpone this as much as you want. Our recommendation then is that after school or before you go to lunch, you do that reboot manually. So the best way to do this, if you go down to your start button, you'll see a shutdown button right there on your right. Everybody kind of notices that shield with the exclamation point in it. That shield signifies that there are updates. So if you click that, it's going to install the updates. It's going to go through that process and shut down, and then you're going to reboot. Now, if you have multiple updates, you might have to do that this week a few different times. But the ideal situation would be you could do those off hours or right when you're heading to lunch or any time that would work for you. And then Monday when you come back in, your computer won't be forced to reboot because you'll have done that reboot proactively. So that's kind of a way that we can deal with Windows updates and any situations that arise from there. And hopefully if we're proactive from that standpoint, then we won't have the reboots right in the middle of a teaching lesson or right in the middle of a meeting or something that you're working on. There is also a manual way to do some of this. And I do take a proactive approach to this with my computer in the office. And to do that, I just go down to the start button, in that white search bar, so if I go back a slide here, you'll notice this search. It says search programs and files. So that's our search bar I'm referring to there. If you just type in Windows Update, it's going to bring up the Windows Update service for you in a screen, and it's going to look a little bit like this. So I took this picture from my computer yesterday, and you'll notice that it says Windows is up to date. So that's a good sign. Now you could see things in here that there are updates ready for your computer that are ready to be installed. You can absolutely go ahead and install those from this screen. And if you do that, then you won't have, you'll have proactively done it, and you won't be waiting for it to happen from our end. So that is the other option if you want to go through and do this piece manually. I don't think anybody needs to do this. We can push those out just like we've always done. I think to avoid frustration, though, it's just a matter of staying on top of those reboots. And if you get that message and you postpone updates, just to remember to go back and take care of the updates at a later time. So that is what we've got for Windows updates. If anybody's got any questions, again, the box is down there. And feel free absolutely to type in questions or comments there, and I'll try to get to those. And while you're doing that, I'm going to move on to third-party updates. We do not have a way to control third-party updates. And so when I say third-party updates, I'm talking about things like QuickTime, Flash, Java, and these all get handled differently by whatever company sends them out. So by default, QuickTime, for instance, is an Apple product, and by default, it goes out and it searches for updates every Monday morning. So probably every Monday morning when you come in, you get a message about QuickTime updates, and do you want to do the update? And that's true of anything that you have. If you have iTunes on your computer, it does the same thing. There are also things like Flash and Java, and a lot of those run down in the bottom taskbar, which is that bottom bar of your computer on the far right-hand side. Updates will pop up from there for a lot of the other third-party items. Again, we don't have a way of controlling these. We personally would like users to update these. Hackers have been using these third-party updates more and more in the last couple of years to add malware and do those types of things. So it's kind of important to stay on top of those. We are looking for a possible solution to update third-party software. The problem is always cost and finding a piece of software that works with everything we have. It's easy to find something that does Flash, but it may not do QuickTime. And so we really would like to find something that does every third-party piece of software that we have, so we don't have a bunch of different software out there. These can also be done, though, through the manufacturer's website. You don't have to use the bottom taskbar. You can use the manufacturer's website, but then there's also a site that we like to use that I think is even better, and that's Ninite.com, and I'm going to show you that in a second. We did have a question come in, and I think it's a good one for where we are. Is there a standardized list of third-party updates for both Mac and PC that everyone should check? We don't have necessarily a standardized list. We have a set of software that we put on the computer. So when we install or build the computer image, we always put Java on. We always put Flash on. We always put Adobe Reader. So we've got 5 or 6 things that we always put on the computers. And I think we could send those out to the buildings so they know here are the pieces of software. There are other things that users use, and a lot of times they've gone out and downloaded those separately. And I'm not saying that those are unsupported by the district. They're just not, they're not used by enough people for us to put on the image, or we haven't gotten a request to do that. One of the, well, and let me show you. So this is kind of the graphic here. You see a Java update down in the task manager there saying it's ready to be installed. So you would just click on that and it would walk you through the process of running it. The picture on the right is the Apple update picture. You know, in this situation, it's Boot Camp Update, iTunes, and QuickTime. So you can select what you want to run. A lot of people, I think, just say quit and don't run those updates. But Apple does go out by, when we set it up, it's set on a weekly schedule, so it does check for updates every Monday morning, I believe. So that's kind of the basics behind what we're doing with updates and how we handle them. I want to point out a couple things here. One of the things I talked about with third-party software is using the manufacturer's website. One issue or one problem we ran into earlier this year was users who wanted a new version of Adobe Reader on their computer. So you notice here I did a search for Adobe Reader, and I just write in Google, and the first site that comes up says install Adobe Reader. So most people assume that this is what they want, and they click it and they install it from here. But you'll notice that the website is www.downloadease.net, and it's an ad site. So you can install Adobe Reader from here, but it's going to come bundled with a lot of pop-ups and things like that. That's kind of how a site like downloadease.net makes their money. If you look down one site, you'll notice that the rest of the sites down here all come directly from adobe.com, which is where you want it to come from. So if you do want to install a third-party piece of software, I think it's important to try to make sure you're on the manufacturer's website and not on a separate one here that may come bundled with a bunch of stuff you don't want. So I think that's the first thing to keep in mind. The second thing is, and I mentioned a little bit in the PowerPoint, is this site called Ninite.com, which we really like from our office over here. Ninite.com allows you to select what you want on your computer. And then you say Get Installer. Now the great thing about this, and I'm sure you've noticed it, if I go out to Adobe and well, that's a perfect example. Let me uncheck these. So Adobe Reader's right here. If I go out to adobe.com and get the reader from there, there's a bunch of questions it asks me. Do you want the Google toolbar installed? Do you want, and if you don't unselect the buttons, you get that software on your computer. The great thing about Ninite.com is it takes care of all those questions for you. So if you go here and you say Reader and you say Get Installer, what happens is it installs, and it does it taking off all of those items. It does it, and you don't have to worry about getting those extra pieces of software. Now, one thing about this is like Flash isn't on here, so this doesn't work for every piece of software, but it does work for quite a bit of software that we use in the district and that people have. So if there is something you're looking for, and this works at home too, this would be a great solution at home on your home computer to take care of getting new software and updating software and taking care of it from that standpoint. So that's pretty much it right now. Are there any questions? And again, we're always here. Helpdesk@paplv.org is how you'll put a ticket in. Now, we do ask that all buildings have tech ETCs, STCs people. So in a situation like this, we do ask that you discuss it with those people first. But if it is something that is causing major problems, we'll get a ticket in and we'll get a tech out there and hopefully take care of whatever issue you're having. All right, well, I don't see any questions here. I just want to make another plug for our Taste of Technology. We are going to try to do this every time a Friday feature comes out. We'll try to do something similar to this. And if you have any suggestions on things we should be offering, definitely send those in. I think Taste of Technology, when the video played, it said to send them to PLSD Communications at paplv.org. but also feel free to send them to me. I'd be more than happy to take a look at those and see what we can do to help you and get some trainings going to hopefully make technology easier in the district. So thank you everybody for attending, and we will get this posted this afternoon sometime.